Section 0 of a Hebrew Grammar by Strack. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For further information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Hebrew Grammar with Reading Book, Exercises, Literature and Vocabularies by Hermann L. Strack. Translated from German by Archibald R. S. Kennedy. Second enlarged edition, Berlin, 1889. From the preface of the first German edition. The superabundance of Hebrew grammars, which perhaps already exists, is not increased by the present work. It takes the place of the grammar of J. H. Petermann, 1845, and simply with a new title, 1864, which is now no longer in the market. It has been occasioned by a want which was been strongly felt by me for a considerable time. For the initiatory studies of the yearly increasing number of such as begin Hebrew at the university, the otherwise serviceable grammars at present in use are too extensive, besides being either too elementary or too difficult for beginners. Now, since the whole of the accidents must, for obvious reasons, be gone over in at most one term, I found myself compelled to occupy the greater part of the time with dictating. Since, however, a new alphabet had to be learned, at the same time this method was attended with serious inconveniences, and the necessity of a printed compendium became every day more apparent. May the book, which is now offered to the public as the result of many years' experience as a teacher, prove useful to others besides my own students. As already remarked, I have written in the first place for students wishing to prepare themselves in the shortest possible time for attendance on the easier exegetical lectures in the university and for the use of more extensive works of the Hebrew language. I feel justified, however, in hoping that my work, particularly since it has been materially enlarged in the second edition, will be found suitable for use in schools, since it discusses only the most important points, these, however, fully and clearly. Irregular forms not mentioned here may be explained by the teacher or looked up in the analytical appendix of the lexicons. That in a few places more is offered than is found even in the most of the larger grammars will not disturb the beginner and will be welcomed by not a few other readers. The present work differs more or less from the Hebrew grammars known to me in the following points. The vocabulary, with the exception of the exercises in reading, is taken as far as possible from Genesis and Psalms. All the Hebrew forms in the grammar and in the exercises really occur in the Bible. None have been constructed by the author. Such hypothetical forms as are adduced simply to explain the genesis of existing forms, and formations that are warned against, will in all cases be found transcribed in italics. Only too easily does the learner retain precisely that form which he must not use when it is presented to him in Hebrew characters along with other forms. The object of the arrangement adopted in the paradigms of the weak verbs, which differs from that usually followed, is to render a mechanical learning by rote impossible. It should also be borne in mind that all complete paradigms contain forms that can be justified by no certain analogy. Should the teacher desire to complete any paradigm, he may profitably allow this to be done by the students themselves. It is a matter of experience that for years the study of Hebrew is no pleasure to many from the fact that they have not, at the very outset, overcome the difficulties inherent in the reading of unfamiliar characters. To remove these difficulties is the aim of the carefully arranged exercises in reading. In the exercises for translation, so much matter has been condensed into a few pages that whoever has thoroughly mastered the whole is sufficiently prepared to read the easier sections of the Old Testament, and is no longer in need of a reading book. I acknowledge with pleasure the assistance I have derived in my studies from the books cited on page 11 asterisk and the following. The following pages, however, are, directly or indirectly, almost exclusively the product of my own experience as an instructor. Should they contribute in some degree to a better preparation for the study of the Word of God as contained in the Old Testament Scriptures, I shall consider myself richly rewarded for the pains bestowed upon them. Berlin, West, May 6, 1883. H. L. Strack. Preface to the second German edition. The exceedingly kind reception which my book has met with on the part of both teachers and students has served as an incentive to bring it, so far as the shortness of time permitted, nearer what it aims to be, that is, a short yet scientific grammar of the Hebrew language for beginners. Apart from quite a number of minor additions and the short chapters 40 and 77, there has been added, first, almost the whole of the syntactical matter, that is, not only chapter 81 to 91, but the bulk of the syntactical remarks in chapters 17 to 19, 21, 39, 41 and the next, 46 and the next, 63 and the next. The introduction of a part of the syntax into the chapter on the forms seemed to me to be justified by a regard for the practical work of instruction, chapter 39, numerals, and with reference to the space saved. Secondly, chapter 12, which treats of the syllable, and in which the remarks on opened and loosely shut syllables should be carefully noted. Thirdly, the exercises for translation have been enlarged by the addition of a number of sentences, which I have preferred to take from proverbs in order to give the student at least some acquaintance with the gnomic wisdom of the Old Testament. The wish to have connected pieces for reading and translation I have sought to comply with by adding for 6 extracts: 1 Samuel 9:25, 1 Kings 3, Psalms 121, 127, 130. Such explanatory notes as will enable the student to read them with the help of the appended vocabulary. In this connection, it may be observed that the student who has mastered this little grammar will be able, even without a dictionary, to read a considerable part of Genesis with but little assistance from the instructor. I have to thank Professor S.R. Driver of Oxford, whose excellent work on the use of the tenses has been special service to me for chapters 88 and 91, for detailed information on the recent literature in English. For pages 2* to 19*, I have preferred Latin to English in order that the type may serve both for the German and for the English edition. Berlin, August 15, 1885. H. L. Strack. Preface to the second English edition. In compliance with requests made to me from various quarters, I have prepared, as a complement to my Hebrew grammar, exercises for translation into the Hebrew language. In order to inspire the student with a greater interest in his work, I have taken special pains to furnish him at as early a stage as possible with sentences for translation, in addition to the bare grammatical forms. These exercises, like the grammar, are so arranged that the student may begin with the noun or with the verb, or may take them together if he so choose. If he elects to follow the first of the three alternatives just given, he will take the exercises in order, passing over, meanwhile, those sentences in which verbal forms occur, indicated by their position at the end and by two parallel bars. In the second case, the student, after finishing number 4, may turn at once to the verbal forms in numbers 24 to 30. In the third case, he will have to master, before number 5, the perfect kal, also the forms in number 24, before number 9, the whole of the kal, see numbers 25, 26, before number 10, nifal, piel, pual, see numbers 27, 28, before number 21, hifil, hofal, hithpael, see numbers 29, 30. By far the greater number of sentences are taken either verbatim or with such modifications as the plan of the work required from the Old Testament. Those who have had experience in such matters know that the making of such a selection is more difficult than to make up sentences for oneself, a task in which only too many have come to grief. To render these exercises available also for those who use the well-known grammars of Gesenius Couch, English edition by Dr. E. C. Mitchell, 1880, and of Professor A. B. Davidson, I have added the corresponding sections of these grammars at the beginning of each exercise. Since it is desirable that beginners should be furnished with a large number of connected passages for translation than is as yet to be found in the chrestomathy at the end of the grammar, I have added in the shape of an appendix such explanatory notes as seem to me necessary for the study of Genesis 1 to 3 and Psalms 1 to 3. With the help of these, the student will be independent of larger works, as it will be sufficient for him to consult the vocabulary appended to the grammar. Should a new edition of the latter be called for, the notes here given will be joined to those I have already given, pages 47* to 50*. May these pages likewise contribute to a better preparation for the study of the Word of God as contained in the Old Testament Scriptures. Groß Lichterfelde, near Berlin, Pentecost 1889, H. L. Strack. Remark: A, E, O denote vowels long by nature or by contraction. A, E, O tone-long vowels. E and U stand for every long E and U. The position of the tone is indicated by accent. For example, meta, pausal form by adnach. Where no book is named, the quotation is from Genesis. Forms occurring only once are accompanied by a cross. Numbers in parentheses indicate how often a form occurs. For example, chapter 17e, Kehayom, 8 times. Numbers 2 and 3 in brackets with exclamation mark signify that a word may be explained in 2 or 3 ways. He for Yahweh Adonai, see chapter 9b. G means Genesis, Psi means Psalms, P is Peloni aliquis. End of section 0.